Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lina Al-Arian, and I'm the Executive Director of the Coalition for Civil Freedoms. I'm very pleased to welcome you all to the kickoff event of our month-long War on Terror Film Festival. Before I say anything else, I want to quickly talk about the phrase War on Terror and the fact that we as organizers of the film festival reject it as a false and misleading term. Like the war on drugs, this war, which was launched by George W. Bush after 9/11, has been upheld by every US administration since, has been racist and politicized since the beginning, lacks a clear definition, and attempts to justify unjust policies and illegal wars in the name of national security. As an organization that is led by and advocates for survivors and victims of the domestic so-called war on terror, we wanted to mark this moment by sharing the stories of those who were directly impacted. Thanks to the crucial and courageous work of filmmakers over the last 20 years, there's an amazing catalog of films that document abuses, highlight crimes, and satirize absurdities of the war on terror. It was very difficult to narrow our selection down to just 20 of these films. As we set out to organize this virtual film festival, we worked day and night to bring together some of the most noteworthy people behind the camera: the filmmakers, writers, academics, journalists, lawyers, organizers, and whistleblowers, in conversation with the subjects of these films, those who face the tyranny of the security state, the criminalization and alienation, yet displayed immeasurable courage and vulnerability in front of the camera, and trusted the filmmakers to faithfully tell their stories. I've seen firsthand the damage that a biased and sensationalist media onslaught can do to a family targeted in the war on terror. It wasn't until a Norwegian filmmaker approached us that we saw the power in being able to tell our story in just one film to combat a narrative that can turn a man, even your father, into a monster. A narrative that has the backing and might of the US government, a narrative that has the power to tear your life apart. It was reflecting on this experience and more broadly on the power of film to expose the injustices of the last 2 decades that motivated our very small but ambitious team to organize this film festival. I particularly want to thank my 2 organizers, my brother Ali Al-Arian and Frank Barat, for putting together an amazing slate of panels and films that exceeded our biggest dreams and highest expectations. I also want to thank Ahmed Bedier, Nada Dibis, Ashraf Abed, and the CCF team for all their hard work these last few weeks, and the many partners and friends who helped us along the way. Finally, I want to express my deepest gratitude to our incredible partners who believed in us and helped bring this festival to life and spread the word, and who I'm very honored to introduce this afternoon. I'm very pleased to begin with the legal director of Project South, my friend Azadeh Shahahahani, who is actually the first to come on board of this festival as our partner. Go ahead, Azadeh.
Thank you so much, Lina. My name is Azadeh Shahahahani, and I'm Legal and Advocacy Director at Project South. I wanted to thank Lina and the Coalition for Civil Freedoms and the organizers of the film festival for providing us with the opportunity to co-sponsor this powerful programming. Project South is a social justice organization based in Atlanta, and we work with grassroots organizations and Black immigrant and Muslim communities in the US South. And we're also in solidarity with Black and Indigenous communities in the Global South. Project South is a movement-building organization, and we are also an abolitionist organization. In the couple minutes I have, I wanted to bring your attention to a few resources produced by Project South that are very relevant to the subject of the film festival. A few weeks ago, we were honored to host Lina and other speakers for a webinar focused on the post-9/11 realities that ushered in new tactics of fear and surveillance in the 21st century, rooted in long-standing state repression and US imperialism. The speakers reflected on their and their families' experiences of criminalization, dehumanization, and surveillance as a result of systematic post-9/11 state repression, discussed how US government policies of the past 2 decades are reminiscent of those employed against social justice movements via COINTELPRO, and shared the strategies of resistance and survival then and now. The speakers represented experiences as family members of targeted people, movement organizers working on the front lines of racial justice and human rights, and formerly detained people, including Mohammed al-Salahi, who was held 14 years at Guantanamo. He was brutally tortured. And he's the author of the acclaimed book, Guantanamo Diary. This webinar was part of the Project South Quarterly Connecting Local to Global Struggles webinar series, and you can find the recording online. I will share it in the chat in a minute. And we also hope that you'll join us for the next webinar on December 10th, Human Rights Day. We also produced a report a few months ago focused on long-standing U.S. government surveillance of communities of color titled Spying on the Margins, the History, Law, and Practice of U.S. Surveillance Against Muslim, Black, and Immigrant Communities and Contemporary Strategies of Resistance. It is on our website. I'll share it in the chat. And a couple other articles, which I'll also share in the chat in a minute, that were published in the last month. One is focused on the necessity of holding war criminals, such as George W. Bush, accountable through people-centered mechanisms, such as people's tribunals. Instead of heaping praise on these war criminals, we really need to hold them to account. And another article on the urgent necessity of revitalizing an anti-war movement to end U.S. war making everywhere. Among other resources that Project South provides, we are happy to provide representation to any impacted community member approached by the FBI or other law enforcement working jointly with the FBI for questioning. In the U.S. South, you can contact us at legal@projectsouth.org. And we are also happy to provide Know and Defend Your Rights workshops for your community. Again, please contact us at legal@projectsouth.org. Many thanks again. We are on Twitter at Project South and look forward to staying in touch. And again, I'll share all these resources in the chat in a minute. Thank you so much again for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, Azadeh. It's great to partner with you, and you're doing such amazing work. And I definitely strongly encourage everybody to check out Project South's website and support your work. Next, I want to introduce the chair of the Coalition for Civil Freedoms board, Attorney Steve Downs, who is the heart of this organization and whose idea was the film festival. Actually, he never ceases to amaze me in all the creative ways he thinks to advocate for impacted families. Take it away, Steve.
Lena, you overdo it. You always overdo it, but I always appreciate it. At CCF, our work is focused on those most impacted by Islamophobia and preemptive prosecutions. Innocent loved ones are jailed. Families are shunned by their own communities and haunted by the fear of new FBI attacks. We do legal work to get those wrongfully convicted out of jail. We educate communities on the destructive impact of the war on terror. We empower impacted families to overcome their injuries and fears, and we engage with Congress to repeal unjust laws and pass better ones. We are a coalition that is founded by political prisoners, for political prisoners and their families. I was delighted when CCF decided to publish The Terror Trap, a deep study into the 20-year impact of the global war on terror. I realized, however, that while a written report can convey the intellectual truth, the emotional truth might well be missing. In my work as a lawyer representing preemptively prosecuted defendants, I've often realized how the words on a legal brief fell short of describing the shattering impact of the FBI's policies on family members and communities. Films convey that emotional truth. And so I thought it was essential that we combine the report, The Terror Trap, with a film festival and with the panels of people involved in the film who could describe the emotional impact that they acted out. These are stories that we need to hear and to see in order to fully understand the 20 years of the war on terror. I'm really excited about this film festival. I'm going to learn a lot from it. There are films here that I should have seen that I have not seen. But I particularly want to thank all of our partners who have come to join with us, because I think in putting on this film festival, we are giving an opportunity for all of these organizations to express the fact that we share the same goals. We want the war on terror to end. We want the harassment, the scapegoating of the Muslim community to end. These are all goals that I think we are all pursuing in our own different ways and in all very effectively. But I thank all of our partners for that, and thank you all very much. And I hope that you, if don't enjoy the show, enjoy all the movies, at least are deeply moved by them as I am. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Steve. Such powerful words in such little time. Next, I don't know if Ahmed Bedier is online with us, but is he on? I want to confirm. Okay, he might be running late. I think we have next then Sumaya Nikui, of the Executive Director of the Islamic Scholarship Fund, another early partner who believed in us, who worked with us in kicking this project off the ground. I'm so honored that you're, to be joined here with you.
Thank you. Salam and hello, everyone. It's an honor to be among this esteemed group of activists and leaders for the opening day of the War on Terror Film Festival. I want to thank and congratulate Lina and her team for doing such an incredible job with the planning of this important and timely film festival that raises awareness about the detrimental consequences of the US war on terror. As you will see throughout this month, Muslims in the US and around the world were viciously targeted by the US government throughout this country's history and also after 9/11. Despite the darkness of the last 20 years, there has been an outcome that gives me hope every day. The coming together of activists and the creation of many nonprofits in response to the war on terror to challenge Islamophobia. The Islamic Scholarship Fund, also known as ISF, is one of the organizations that grew out of the post-9/11 era, with the recognition of the need to increase American Muslim representation in media and politics, so we can tell our own stories and demand policy changes that respect our human and civil rights. For the last 12 years, we have supported over 450 American Muslims and served as a catalyst for their placements into impactful media and policy careers. We have accomplished this through the provision of academic scholarships to provide college and graduate students with financial support, congressional year-long paid fellowships and internships, judicial internships through which we place first-year law students with federal, state, and district judges, and film grants. We are proud that one of our film grant recipients, Asya Bandui's film, is among the 20 masterpieces being screened this month, and Ali Aryan, an other film grant recipient, who is an organizer of this event. Film is a compelling medium that can shift people's consciousness and understanding of issues that have been buried in problematic narratives. Through our collective efforts, we can empower Muslim changemakers, including filmmakers, to change the narrative and to dismantle the many destructive policies and violence inflicted on people across the world. I'm really grateful that ISF is playing a small role in this important work, and we look forward to collaborating with you all on this project and many, many upcoming events. Thank you, and enjoy this month of Film Festival.
Thank you so much, Sumaya. That was wonderful. Next, I want to introduce Ahmed Bedier, the president of United Voices, who has teamed up with CCF on a number of projects. He's lobbied with us. He's done presentations and training for our family members. He's advocated on campaigns, most notably the Nur Salman campaign in Orlando, which resulted in a not guilty verdict. She was acquitted. That was a campaign we were so proud of. And is a partner on the film festival who's been working really hard getting it off the ground. Without further ado, Ahmed, take it away.
Thank you, Lina, and thank you to CCF and all the organizers and the sponsors of this important film festival. If we were talking about holding a War on Terrorism film festival, 10 years ago, many of us, many of the organizations would have said maybe, people would not have been as receptive then. I mean, we've been talking about these issues for the past 20 years. It just, the people weren't listening. Finally, now I think there's an appetite for more in-depth conversations. These are not brand new films that we'll be watching throughout this month. Some of them are as old as the War on Terror itself. And some would have said, you know, they're ahead of their times, but they're trying to push the conversation and the issue that there's injustice that's happening. And this war on terrorism, as some people may say, that it's actually a war on Muslims or a war on Islam, that the war on terrorism is just an excuse to go after these vulnerable communities. So many people across our nation and across the world have been dragged into this war on terrorism unjustly. Not to mention people that are in Guantanamo Bay still there and not finding justice. Not to say that everybody's in Guantanamo and everybody that's involved in the war on terror is necessarily innocent. However, everybody has their right in court. We can't just simply take the government's word for it. We can't take the authorities' word for it that somehow they're keeping us safe and to trust them. Time and time again, in so many cases that we've seen, and I've also been, personally involved in, as far as advocating for them. We saw how the, government doesn't always tell the truth. Because again, they're made up of people, and people sometimes when they make mistakes, they try to cover themselves. The problem has been for the past 20 years that media professionals and journalists haven't been asking the tough questions, have not been doing their part in holding government accountable and asking the administration or the Department of Justice or the Department of Defense more in-depth questions to justify their aggressive campaign in this so-called war on terrorism. So we hope, by our participation in this film festival, that we can bring more awareness. But at the end of the day, it's really not about, because, it's not, the war on terrorism is not something necessarily, it's not a festive occasion. I think the film festival is just to use that as a way to bring awareness to these important issues and to push for policy changes. It's time to end this war on terrorism that actually has not made us any safer as it was promised. It's actually making us less safe. And now we have a more terrorist organization than we had before 9/11. And I keep getting notifications. People are sending me messages congratulating, the launch of this kickoff. So it is, after all, it is a red carpet event, or it was supposed to be a red carpet event, virtual one. It's a kickoff event. So we have something to celebrate, that at least we have all these organizations that are coming together, that are putting on an awesome event. A lot of hard work has gone into this. Hats off to Lina Larian and the CCF family for leading the way, and we're proud to be co-sponsors and co-organizers of this great film festival. But this is just to start the conversation, providing the platform for the dialogue, for the conversations, that we hope that this will push the viewers and activists and organizations to push ahead for real policy changes, to use the tools and the things that we learn through these discussions throughout the film festival, whether it's from the panelists or from the films themselves, to lobby Congress and to push for, whether it's in the United States or other places, to push for a change in the war on terrorism and end the scapegoating of Muslims here in America and across the world in the name of fighting terrorism. Congratulations to CCF and to all the co-sponsors. On behalf of United Voices, we're proud to be part of this, and thank you for the opportunity to be involved.
Thank you so much, Ahmed. Next, I want to bring on Shezana Hafiz. She's a community relations officer at CAGE and is the coordinator of their current international witness campaign to mark the 20 years of the war on terror. Go ahead, Shezana. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Lina. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and good evening, everybody. I'm the outreach coordinator at CAGE Advocacy in the UK, which has been active for 18 years. The catalyst for our work was initially to campaign for the prisoners in Guantanamo Bay. And then as the war on terror has expanded its infrastructure into an entire industry, we were compelled to also expand our remit to cover other areas of work so we could build resistance and support and protect our communities. So I'm also currently the campaign coordinator for the International Witness Campaign, which has 55 partners across 17 countries. It went live on the 31st of August, and it will scale 5 months of activities where our partners are involved in actions, events that will zoom in on different aspects of the catastrophic impact that the war on terror has had across the globe. 20 years ago, President George W. Bush announced the launch of a crusade. And 2 decades later, as we look back, we're looking back at illegal wars and drone assassinations and mass displacement, arbitrary detention and dehumanization across the Muslim world. And the list goes on. And this is the cost of war. And it doesn't stop there. You know, we see domestically across Western democracies, policy and legislation that targets Muslim communities and institutionalizing structural Islamophobia and undermining the rule of law. And this is why the International Witness Campaign and this film festival are so important, because they project a perspective that you're not going to get from the you just won't get from a complicit media. And this is more than just film screenings. It's an effort to educate and to bring awareness and to empower and mobilize a movement to acknowledge the crimes that have been committed in the name of state-sponsored violence, and to demand accountability for all governments and agencies that have been complicit, and to seek restorative justice for victims and survivors of state-sponsored violence over the last 2 decades, and to call for complete dismantlement of the infrastructure which has allowed for these crimes to take place. So I just want to say that we're really pleased to be a part of this effort and to be a part of this collective. And thank you to CCF for putting all of this together, and to everybody that's tuned in and listening and watching this premiere event. Share this with your friends, share it with your family members and your colleagues. And above all, share it with the younger generation, because we have an entire generation that has grown up and lived through the war on terror, and that's all they've ever known. And we owe it to them to speak our truth. On a final note, tomorrow there will be a film screening of The Confession, and my colleagues, Dr. Asim Qureshi, the research director at CAGE, will be hosting that panel discussion with Muazzam Beg, who's also our outreach director and a former Guantanamo detainee. So please tune into that. And straight after that, we actually have our international conference as part of the International Witness Campaign that will be looking at that will be witnessing the 20-year war of terror, where we hear from experts and survivors. So please do try and tune into that, and you can catch more information at 20yearsofwar.com. Thank you, Lena.
Thank you so much, Shezana, and I'm honored to be joining your conference tomorrow. So everybody check out 20 years. What is it, 20 Years of War?
20yearsofwar.com.
20yearsofwar.com. Thank you so much. Okay, next we have Amar Ahmed, an organizer with Massachusetts Peace Action. We're very lucky to have met Amar actually when he was working on Capitol Hill, and Steve was there with our prisoner and family coordinator at the time, Ashley Young, talking about our cases, and Amar was there listening and like, what's going on? This is something I care about. And thankfully we've crossed paths and have been working together ever since. So I'm very happy to introduce you today. Take it away.
Thank you, Lena. Thank you for inviting me and for organizing this really great event. And let's just acknowledge with all these awesome panelists that I'm totally out of my league here. So I'm really honored, and thank you so much. When I saw Steve Downs, the chairman of the Coalition of Civil Freedoms, in the halls of Congress in a congressional office, banging his fist on the table, really animated, talking about Muslims, and I saw this white guy talking about Muslims, I thought, is he talking against Muslims, or what is he saying? Because there's been such an anti-Muslim climate since the war on terror. But he was talking on behalf of these political prisoners, which had been entrapped by the FBI. When the U.S. empire is all over the world with these policies of war and destruction, it causes a lot of harm to people, and it causes a lot of harm to families. And the people that CCF works with, the people that CCF is made out of, are some of these people who have been harmed by the war on terror policies of the U.S. government. And these also happen to be people within the U.S. So what I'm saying is that with the Muslim community being unjustly persecuted after the war on terror, that's a very serious issue, and it's a very serious issue for all of us. And this is not just about Muslims, because if one marginalized group can be targeted and persecuted for political reasons, then anyone can be. So if we put Japanese people in internment camps because of the war that's happening at that time, this is the same type of issue, or COINTELPRO. So I'm just so glad that CCF is there working on behalf of political prisoners and families. This is really important and thankless work. And these people that they work on behalf of are people who society has forgotten or marginalized or doesn't care about because they're just Muslims anyways. But if we really care about peace and justice, that means justice for everyone, even the most marginalized among us. So that's why CCF's work is so important, and that's why this event is so important. So thank you for inviting me, and I'm really looking forward to listening to everyone else.
Thank you so much, Ahmad, and I'm very happy to share that Massachusetts Peace Action is also a recent member of the coalition. So we're very excited to continue to build together. Next, I'd love to introduce Edward Mitchell, the Deputy Executive Director at CARE. It's an honor to have you join us and to partner with you.
Thank you so much, Lena, and assalamu alaikum, everyone. On behalf of CARE, let me begin in the name of God. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulullah. Thank you to CCF for hosting this event and for all the work that you do. We're very happy to support this film festival. As we all know, the war on terror very quickly became a war of terror for so many people around the world, from those impacted by unjust prosecutions, drone strikes, mass surveillance, entrapment, and so many other horrible things that the film festival will highlight over the next month. My hope is that these films and the discussions around them will allow us to learn lessons about the horrible mistakes our country made, will help inspire us to confront and fix the mistakes that have not been repaired yet, so that inshallah, all those people who are still in prison unjustly, still suffering unjustly here and around the world can be helped, inshallah. So CCF does amazing work, brave work. It's very important to our country, not only to our community. And we applaud you all for the work that you do. And we thank you again for hosting this film festival. And we look forward to watching this unfold, inshallah. Thank you all so much. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam rahmatullah. Thank you so much. Next, I'm very happy to introduce Alia Hussein, the Advocacy Program Manager at CCR. Who's been, helping us work on the program and has been just such an excellent source of support for us. And I'm really glad to, an honor to be able to work together.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much, Lena, for the introduction and the opportunity for the Center for Constitutional Rights to be a partnering organization of the War on Terror Film Festival. It's very cool to be on this virtual red carpet. I think it's my first red carpet. And, I want to give a big thank you to the Coalition for Civil Freedoms and the whole organizing team who has somehow made this incredible and ambitious festival possible, and to bring this programming to so many audiences, including, we hope, new audiences who may be new to these issues but are eager to learn and reflect with us on 20 years of the U.S. war on terror. The Center for Constitutional Rights works with communities under threat to fight for justice and liberation through litigation, advocacy, and strategic communications. Since 1966, we've taken on oppressive systems of power, including structural racism, gender oppression, economic inequity, and governmental overreach. CCR stood with those whose lives have been upended or destroyed as a result of the U.S. government's war on terror and campaign of human rights abuses, particularly Muslims. Our post 9/11 response work began in the days and weeks following 9/11 when we responded to immigrants in New York and New Jersey when they were unlawfully rounded up by federal agents and local police, detained in brutal conditions, and eventually deported. That work, unfortunately, continues to this day as we fight for the release of our clients who remain detained at Guantanamo without charge or access to a fair trial. And as we try to ultimately shut down the prison once and for all, we're also seeking to hold private military contractors accountable for their role in torture at Abu Ghraib, just to name a few of our ongoing efforts. And these are two issues that I'm really excited are going to be profiled in the film festival and in part of live panel discussions as well. For the last 20 years, we fought alongside our clients, communities, and movement partners, including many of the people you've heard from today, to hold each administration, including the Biden administration, accountable for their role in creating and upholding these policies and practices. And as many of the speakers before me have shared, we know that many of the individuals and communities most impacted by the war on terror are no closer to justice, accountability, and healing. So at CCR, we see the 20th anniversary really as an opportunity to reflect on the past so we can build the future that we want together. And that is why we're so excited about the film festival and including it in our own programming this year. And really grateful that the festival is bringing together so many excellent movies, some of which you can't easily find online that are a must watch. And, we believe wholeheartedly in the transformative power of arts and culture. Films bring all of these issues into new light. They provide different entry points for people to engage and learn, and really do allow for the stories of those most impacted, but that are often the most hidden or suppressed, to be told. I've seen firsthand how films can bridge the gaps between us, energize people to take action, and build community. So I'm really looking forward to the panel discussions. It's such an impressive lineup of filmmakers, resistors, survivors, and activists. And I also look forward to just learning with everybody. So a big thank you to CCF and hope to see many of you later this month. Thanks, Lena.
Thank you so much, Alia. And I also want to, again, remind our viewers that you will be on our second panel tomorrow. The first one is this afternoon, and tomorrow you'll be on the road to Guantanamo in the confession panel. You've traveled to Guantanamo numerous times and led major advocacy campaigns, and we're excited to hear from you tomorrow. So thank you. Next, I want to bring in Dr. Zahid Bukhari, the Executive Director of our coalition member organization, the ICNA Council for Social Justice. He too came to us early this year, very energized to think of creative ways to mark the 20th anniversary of the War on Terror, inspiring us to put together this festival and a report that we will be launching next week together. So I'm honored to introduce you, Dr. Bukhari. Take it away.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much, Lena. And congratulations, I think, to Lena, Steve, Ali, Frank, Nada, and all the team of CCF to organizing this. Although it's the word festival we are using, but it's also the virtual festival. Maybe we can also use the word sadness also here because the situation there. But anyhow, I think this is a blessing that CCF is here, and we are highlighting all these different dimensions of war on terror. ICNA Council for Social Justice, we are proud of that. We have been, I think, member of CCF since its inception with other name. We also, I think, co-sponsor the report, the second edition of Inventing Terrorists. So we have been working on this with CCF. So war on terror, I think there are, we can, right now there's no time, but we can very easily count the 20 years, but 20 different dimensions of this war on terror. And we like to have awareness of those dimensions. For example, a couple of them. Islamophobia, I already mentioned. Cost of war, financial cost, military cost, human lives cost, civilian, military, all those things. Unjust laws, the whole legislative agenda is there. Very much unjust laws have been passed. Surveillance, FBI, entrapment, then torture and abuses, Guantanamo Bay, Abu Ghraib, Bagram, and then secret jails all over the world by CIA. Then killing, and all those things are there. Then war crimes, then this military-industrial complex, the corruption. Recently, I think the Afghanistan issue is also giving us that so much corruption happened with all those trillions of dollars America has spent on war on terror. I think the Brown University has estimated more than 6 trillion, and maybe in 2030 it will be more than 9 trillion with all those debt and other things. And then this private armies. So there are so many dimensions and what happened ultimately? No, the commander-in-chief is saying that we were defeated in Afghanistan. So I think the main point is that war on terror, and all these films will be highlighting different dimensions of this war on terror, especially the torture, the secret jails and abuses and different dimension of that. What happened is 20 years. 20 years, America has spent more than $6 trillion. And then thousands and hundreds of thousands lives were lost. Muslim countries were demolished and destroyed. And all these 20 years looks like it's a wrong calculation, wrong target, wrong times, because exactly these 20 years, China has developed so much, tremendously. And now America is looks like that suddenly awakened and then find out that we have a competition with China. So all this, I think not only the war on terror should be ended, but it should be investigated that who did it, all this wrong calculation and wrong targets, and the whole American nation and the policymakers, what they have done. I think hopefully this film festival and the report will be highlighting all these different aspects of war on terror. Again, I think I'm proud of ICNA Council of Social Justice that we are a member of CCF. We are part of this whole campaign, the film festival, the report, and the campaign ending this war on terror. And also, again, I like to congratulate CCF to highlighting all these efforts. And may Allah accept all those efforts, because these are for the justice in this world. Thank you very much.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much, Dr. Bukhari. And we're also honored to have you as a founding member organization, and you've been there with us from the beginning and have always supported our families and our prisoners. So we're very blessed to have you with us as well. Next, I want to switch to Allison McManus, Research Director at the Freedom Initiative, which, like CCF, advocates for political prisoners, but internationally in the Middle East, unfortunately. So definitely, we want to highlight prisoners everywhere and those who are targeted and directly affected by the war on terror, including in the Arab and Muslim world. Go ahead, Allison, and I'm honored to have you join us.
Thanks so much, Lena. And can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Wonderful. Thanks so much. I'm so grateful to be here, and thanks to you and all of the other sponsors and organizers for putting on this wonderful film festival. I want to just note, something that Dr. Bukhari said about the 20 different dimensions of the legacy of the war on terror. One of the dimensions, as Lena mentioned, that we focus on at the Freedom Initiative is the issue of political prisoners in the Middle East and North Africa. We are an advocacy organization that seeks release of political prisoners, many of whom are detained due to, in large part, the legacy of the war on terror. That is to say, in countries like Egypt and Saudi Arabia, we see literally tens of thousands of detainees in jail right now unjustly on charges of terrorism, many of whom for which there has been absolutely no evidence that's put forward, and many of whom face horrendous conditions, medical neglect, torture, etc. Why I think that this is important to note is that the war on terror and the global war on terror has undergirded the authoritarian governments that are conducting these brutal campaigns of repression, not just of the arbitrary detention, but also using extraordinary anti-terrorism measures as a means to shut down freedoms of press, association, and assembly. And also, of course, important to note, doing so with U.S. tax dollars. The United States gives $1.3 billion annually to Egypt. This year, $1 billion, this year, 300 million of the $300 million was supposed to be conditioned on human rights improvements, including release of political prisoners. However, the State Department sidestepped those congressional mandates in order to deliver another $190 million, once again, with the justification that it would be used to counter terror, which in Egypt's mind means jailing activists. I think that these are really important to mention because as part of the legacy of the war on terror, I think they're often overlooked due to the ways in which the U.S. has engaged militarily in the region and conducted more overt violence. But I think that they're important nonetheless. As Dr. Bukhari and others have mentioned, the establishment of the black sites, just because the CIA may not be operating there directly anymore, does not mean that these sites have disappeared. They are still being used to torture innocent civilians. And of course, it should be noted that the US still maintains the same intelligence relationships with these countries. So in effect, still funding and supporting the same types of horrendous programs and violation of human rights that so many here have fought to dismantle and fight back against. So I will leave my comments there. I'm so grateful that we're able to be part of this conversation. And again, trying to provide a very holistic picture of the ills of the last 20 years and a complete picture of really where we're at and what we need to do to be able to move forward and to be able to continue the struggle to protect human rights here in the United States and as well around the world. So thanks again, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of the conversations throughout the month.
Thank you so much, Allison, for providing that additional important context and history. So we're actually ahead of schedule. Jody Evans will be introducing the panel for the Mauritanian at 6 o'clock. At 4, in about 15 minutes, we will screen the first film of the film festival. Please note on our festival's website, we will have a schedule of rescreenings in case you miss it. Every film will be screened twice. So if you miss it, you'll have a chance to watch it at a later time. And we encourage everybody, though, to join us at our live panel discussions to engage our speakers and, ask questions. And really, this will be a way for us to provide tools and resources for resistance as well. The goal ultimately isn't just to entertain or educate, but to also build a base of support to end the war of terror. That's right. So I think we will end here. Thank you again to all of our amazing partners, and stick around, refresh your screens at 4 o'clock exactly. We will go live, and we're so glad to have you join us this month. So hopefully we will get to see you guys. Take care. Thanks.